And as Ms. Crow said, we are from Oncor, and Oncor is the electric delivery company. So we're here to kind of talk to you today about the different ways that electricity is generated or is made, and then how in the world, from the time it gets made, how does it get to your house in Decatur and get to our businesses in Decatur? So we're going to talk about all the different ways that we make electricity today, and using the fossil fuels, and then the other alternative methods that are now coming around and becoming more popular in the state of Texas especially, in getting electricity. And then how does it get to your homes here in Decatur? So we're going to explain all of that to you today. And if you have any questions, we'll wait till the end, and then we'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have, okay? All right, can anyone tell me one of the ways that electricity is generated today? Yes, sir? Through water, okay. All right, right here.
Solar power.
So, solar power, yes ma'am.
By fossil fuels.
Fossil fuels.
Turbines.
Okay, very good. How about you?
Wind.
Wind, yes sir. You had your hand up. Good job. Anybody else have another idea?
Water.
Okay, very good. And you right here.
Power plants.
Exactly. You guys are all, y'all must have really already learned everything you need to know. We can just go home now, right? Very good. Yes, electricity is generated by various different ways. Now then, in the state of Texas, we are kind of limited on the ways that we can generate electricity because there's just not a lot of hydro or water to be able to generate electricity. So that one, we don't have a whole lot of rushing rivers here in Texas that can help us out with that. So that's one of our very last resorts in being able to generate electricity. But one thing that some of you did not mention is nuclear power.
Power plant.
Yes, nuclear power plant. We have some pictures here that we'll pass around. We'll show you, and then we'll pass around. Okay, this is a picture of Comanche Peak. These are really old pictures, probably older than even your grandparents, so you'll just have to forgive me for that. But this is a picture of our Comanche Peak nuclear power plant. And if you can see here, these two little dome shapes, those are called the reactors. Those are actually where the neurons and all the transmissions takes place in generating the electricity or inside those reactors. So this method of generating electricity is probably one of the least expensive methods of generating electricity, but it's also due to some problems that could happen if, say for example, if there was a leak in one of these, then that could put some things into our environment. Kind of like, are you all familiar with when they had the earthquake in Japan and the things that happened over there? So the federal government is very protective in allowing any more nuclear power plants to be built. But these walls right here are, Michelle, they're 18 feet. 18 feet thick. Can you imagine that? Yes, they're 18 feet thick, and then they go down into the ground almost a half a mile. Can you believe that?
Yes.
So that is nuclear power plant, and this is actually in over by Granbury, Texas. So we'll pass that around to you in just a minute. All right, as some of you also mentioned, fossil fuels. This is a picture of a coal plant, and you can see here where they generate coal, where they actually mine the coal, and then it goes into the power plant, and the coal is turned into electricity. Okay? This is a picture of a lignite power plant. And again, the lignite is taken from the earth right there on site. This is called a drag line that they use to help to strip the lignite out of the ground. And then that lignite is then used to generate electricity. And then this is one that y'all are very familiar with, is our newest technology that we have, is wind power. Now then, each one of these turbines generates electricity, okay? And each one of those turbines can power enough electricity for about 15 homes. Now then, as you can see, the key to generating wind electricity, what has to happen?
There has to be wind.
You got it. So what happens if on a hot summer day, the hottest summer day that we have, and all of a sudden the wind stops blowing? What happens then?
No more power.
You got that right. So we cannot generate electricity enough for the entire state of Texas by just these wind turbines, okay? Because you know what would happen on the August the 15th, and it's 117 degrees in Decatur, and guess what? The wind stops blowing. Do you want your electricity to be out on that day? Absolutely not. So, we cannot rely on all of the power in the state to be generated using these methods right here. So be thinking about that. Because I know I've heard some little birdies tell me that you all might think that wind energy is the way to go. So y'all keep that in mind. And again, this is just a picture of the power plants themselves. So once electricity is generated through these power plants, how does it get to your house? It just doesn't float through the air, does it?
I guess the power lines.
Yes, ma'am.
Does the power lines like along the roads like this?
That's exactly right. When the electricity is generated at the power plants like this, then it travels down what we call the electric superhighways. So as many of you see as you're driving down the road, you probably see these big lines like this all up and down out there in the fields. They're not in your neighborhoods usually, but they're out in the big pastures in the fields, and as you're driving in on the school bus or riding to school in your car, you'll probably see some lines that look like this. These are called transmission lines, and they are the highways for electricity to travel along to get to our cities. Now then, once they get to our cities, it's dropped off at what we call a substation. Each city has at least one substation. Bigger cities have more than one. Decatur, we have one substation, and that takes care of all the homes and businesses in Decatur. But the big power lines like this drop it off at that substation, and then they're done. They don't take power back out on them. Everything is coming into the substation. Once it gets into the substation, then you all have these in your backyards. At your house, they're at behind the grocery stores, they're everywhere you go. These are called distribution lines or distribution poles. They're the wooden poles that have the cross arms on them, and then the small wire. And what happens from here, then the power goes from the substation, where it's dropped off, to the distribution lines. Then it's brought to your house and delivered at your house through a meter. Every one of you have a meter at your house, at your apartment, or wherever it is that you live.
I remember you had a trailer and it said regular and smart.
You're exactly right. You are so good. I bet you must have been at the state challenge.
Yes.
Yes, sir. You're exactly right. This is, whoops, we turn it right side up. This is a smart meter. And with the smart meter, we can tell, and you can tell, your family can tell how much electricity is being used in your house. And you can even tell if, say, if you left the house and you left your refrigerator door open. And all the electricity that's going through there, you can actually go on the computer and pull it up, and you can see, uh-oh, we've left something on at home. We better go check and see what it is. It might have been your curling iron or your toaster oven or something of that nature. But with the smart meters, you can tell when the power is left on in the home. So I'll pass this around too. Now then, forgot to bring this out. On the transmission lines, the big ones here, this is what the wire looks like. See how big that wire is? That's only one strand. It's 6 of these wrapped together. So you can see this is pretty heavy, and when I pass it around. 6 of these wrapped together make one transmission line. I couldn't bring 6 because I couldn't lift it. So this is the wire that is used on the distribution poles, on these here. This is the wire that goes on the poles that you see running down your street in your neighborhood. So see how much smaller it is? But that is how the electricity is carried into your home and dropped off at your meter. So, those are the ways that we generate electricity today and how we get the electricity to your house here in Decatur, Texas. So, when you're looking forward 50 years from now and we no longer have fossil fuels, you guys are really going to have to help us out because we don't know what we would do. Okay? I'm going to pass these things around. Do you guys have any other questions that you might have? Yes, ma'am.
How many do you have to use of the ones that go in the distribution?
We use there's 3 of these, and you can see, when I look at this picture here, see there's 1, 2, 3, and then this line here is called a ground, and that keeps, like, if birds were to land on the wire, that keeps them from getting shocked. So, stack in the back. You don't remember? Did you have a question?
Why is one bigger than the other?
Why it's one bigger than the other? Because this big one has to travel for miles and miles, over 100 miles sometimes, to deliver electricity to our cities. So the wire has to be bigger so the electricity can go through it farther. And it also carries a whole lot more electricity because just think about it. This wire is going to bring electricity to Decatur and kind of dump it off. So it has to bring a lot of